Welcome, everyone, to another session of TriTech University. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we are going to be taking a look at how to take advantage of accounts payable discounts on invoices. The idea is many suppliers and inventory vendors might offer some type of discount if you pay their invoices early. And we'd like to be able to take advantage of that so that way you don't miss out on essentially what could be very well construed as free money. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar, feel free to plug them into the questions box. There'll be a little, I believe, question mark icon over there on the right-hand side. Click on that, and that will open up the questions panel. So if you have any questions about today's content, go ahead and type them in there, and I will monitor those questions as they come in and hopefully get them answered for you. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with today's material. So, continuing to use the music point of sale system that I've been using here for this entire quarantine type webinar sessions, we'll just go ahead and jump right into how this works. So, discounts start at the vendor level. So if we go ahead and take a look into modules and accounts payable, and let's just take a look at any given vendor. I'll hop into add change vendor here, and let's just go ahead and select Coast that I have here right at the top of my vendor listing. So here in the vendor entry, we can go to the details tab, and on this details tab, this is where normally we can put in details about our account with the vendor, terms of purchase, things like credit limits or minimum order amounts and stuff like that. I discussed a lot of these functions in a previous webinar where I talked about a number of vendor tips and tricks. What we're going to look at today is this panel here, this discount days panel. Let me go ahead and grab the highlighter. So basically, that's what we are focusing on. Boop, boop, and smiley face. Okay. Always got to have some fun with this, especially on a Friday, right? Especially if you're having good weather like we are for the first time in some time. So the whole idea of discount days is if you get a certain percentage of a discount. So let's say that's going to be let's say it's a 5% discount, and let's say that you have X number of days to pay that off. So let's say maybe it's 10 days. We can go ahead and save that to here. And maybe if you get let's say that you get a slightly less discount. Let's say maybe you get 2.5% if you pay off within 20 days. Notice how my terms over here is 30. So I'll go ahead and save that. Let me go ahead and add both of those just because I followed my own, or broke my own cardinal rule rather, which is to make sure I hit that add button each time. So there we go. We can see we get the 5% discount if we pay it off within 10, and the 2.5% discount if we pay it off within 20. These are probably pretty sizable discounts. I don't expect them to be the same for every given vendor. I'm just using these as hypotheticals. Let's go ahead and save that. And now when we key in an invoice into this account, so we'll go ahead and enter AP invoice, and we'll go ahead and we will select Coast Wholesale. Let's say that the invoice date is today, and the invoice number is 12345. It's the same combination of my luggage. We have the 30-day terms, which means that our due date would be 30 days out from today, so June 14th. Let's say that the expense amount is $1,000. And before we go and actually expense that, we can now take a look at this discounts button here, this discounts panel. What we can do is we can either fill in amounts for the discount, and what we can also do is we can click this auto button. Now, prior to hitting that auto button, you're going to need to put in an amount to discount, because it's probably not going to be, or it's very possible that the discount might not be on that full $1,000. In my example that I'm about to set up here, I'm going to have this $1,000 be $900 in inventory cost and $100 in shipping. So maybe the discount only applies to the $900. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is put in the 900 and then click that auto button. And you'll see that it basically is now coming up and saying, if I pay this invoice by 5/25, I can take advantage of a $45 discount on the payment. And if I pay it off, if I miss that one, I'll pay it off by 6/4, I can take advantage of a $22.50 discount as long as I pay by one of those two dates. That's kind of the idea of this. Now, certainly you could key these in manually. Let's go ahead and delete these two. So if you don't have that set up back on the vendor because maybe it's not an everyday discount or an all the time discount, but if you want to go ahead and key this in manually, you can also do that. Let's stick with my same $900 value. And let's say that maybe in this one-time instance, they're going to give me a 7.5% so 7.5% of $900 if I pay by, let's say, next week, Friday. So just kind of that idea there. I can go ahead and save that in there. Let me know if that's making sense. Basically, it's just whatever the vendor is going to give me for some kind of early payment. Now, it doesn't have to be a percentage. I could also say that on the $900, they're going to give me a $50 discount. I could basically skip the percentage altogether if I pay by, let's say, the 19th. So let's see, let's get that back in there. So $50 and save. So you can see how that lets me just plug that in right away there as well. So I can do basically whatever amount I want if I skip the discount percentage field. But usually we're talking about percentages, so you can go really either way with this. Now, as far as the rest of this, we're just going to go ahead. I'm actually going to delete that one out because that one doesn't quite make sense as far as paying less or paying less if I pay earlier. So we'll just keep it with that one, and then we'll add in another one as well. I'm going to go ahead and come over to the expense, and we'll just again we'll go ahead and we'll say that the $900 is for inventory, and then the remaining $100 is for shipping. And I've talked about this quite often in my vendor AP invoice webinars on this, so I'm not going to spend really any time at all on what I just did there. So that's one invoice. Let's go ahead and key in another one. I'm going to enter another AP invoice. Let's say it's again for Coast, and I'll do another one. I'll do it as of today, and this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Again, same 30 days. Let's say that this one is $1,500, and I'm going to make this one $1,300 for the discountable amount, and I'll just use my automatic function. So again, we've got that there. So saying that $1,300 of this is going to be for inventory and $200 is shipping. So now I'm going to have two invoices in here where I will have discounts available. So let's go ahead and do this for the $1,300, save and add, and then the remaining one for the shipping of $200, and that will now be complete. So we've got a couple of invoices in here now. Let's see what this looks like when we want to make sure we are paying on these discounts. First and foremost, a couple of reports that you may find handy. So in the reports and underneath accounts payable, if we take a look at AP invoices with aging, and of course this is just basically to see what is out there, we'll just go ahead and throw this up to the screen so you can kind of see what this looks like. So you'll notice there that I've got those two invoices in here. Let me see if I can zoom in on that at all, just to make it a little bit bigger. So we've got invoice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And we can see that I've got some potential discounts on these if I pay them off early. Now there's not really enough room here to show the particulars of those discounts, especially the multiple discounts in this case. But in this case, if I have these, if I can pay these off, then right now my total due, if I were to pay these off at least as of today, would only be $2367.50 instead of the full $2,500 balance. So that's not a bad savings. I mean, that's if nothing else, a cell phone payment, right? So let's see if we can take advantage of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to purchase and pay rather within the confines of discounts without necessarily paying too early, especially if we're talking about keeping money in a checking account that is garnering some interest. So let's take a look into modules and accounts payable. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at selecting invoices by date. Now, the idea here is normally when you run this type of function to find invoices that you're going to pay by a certain date, let's say that the cutoff date, which is the date of when the invoice is going to be due. Let's just going to say I'm going to put that out to the 6th and just hit refresh here. So the idea with this would be, and I think that we're actually due further out from that. Let's say it's the 20th. There we go. So we can see there's these two invoices. They are due on the 14th. If we pay by the discount date, which is the 22nd on the first one and the 25th on the second one, that's where we can cash in on those discounts. Now, we could also, in theory, if we clear this out, let's go ahead and right click and clear on that. And let's just say if we want to see any invoices that have a discount in the upcoming week here. So I'll go ahead and hit refresh on that. And you'll see, yes, there is one invoice there for the 22nd, regardless of the due date. If I pay it by the 22nd, I can take advantage of that $67.50 discount. So basically the idea with this is if you've got some invoices coming up and you want to make sure that they're paid by the time that that discount expires, you can go ahead and do that. While you're in here, you can always go ahead as well and you can right click and you can view those discounts. So in this case, there's just the one discount on that one. Let me go ahead and extend that out through to the end of that other week so we can see there's the other one that has it available on the 25th. We can right click and view the discounts on that one. And that way we can see in this case that even if we miss the $65 discount by paying by the 25th, we could still, in theory, cash in on a slightly lesser discount as long as we pay by the 4th. But why not pay by the 25th and take advantage of that discount, right? So the idea then would just be we could go ahead and, of course, we could flag these for payment. We could right click and go ahead and select them. We can right click on either the individuals and highlight them and select them. You can see how that's pulling in the full check amount there of what would be paid, assuming that we're taking advantage of that discount. If we double click, we can see that it is coming in and cashing in on that discount, $67.50 for the first one and $65 for the second one. You can get to that same screen by right clicking and clicking on change amounts, and it would pop up with those amounts as well. So that's kind of the idea with that. I might have just accidentally clicked on our little help button there. So let me go ahead and get that out of the way. But yeah, that's basically the idea is as long as we can pay by that discount date, then by all means, we can go ahead and cash in on that discount. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it by doing check runs. If we exit out of here, I'm actually not going to select those for paying, but if we go into accounts payable, and let's say that we had posted those via a manual EFT or had handwritten them a check or paid through them some other way, shape, or form, we can go into accounts payable and check disbursements. Let's go ahead and pull up Coast by spelling Coast correctly. And here are the two invoices. And the same idea applies. You can see up here at the top, it's going to let us know how much of a discount is available for all of these invoices if we were to go ahead and pay them now. So down at the bottom here, you'll see that it's going to show us what the discount amounts are for the given invoice that's highlighted. So the first one highlighted, it's showing us what the discount amounts are. $525, pay by them, we get the $65 discount. If we miss that one but pay by the 4th, we get the $32.50. And again, we can right click and view those discounts in a pop-up if we so desire as well. So either way, you can cash in on these discounts. Let's go ahead and let's say that we paid this one by an EFT payment. So it's coming out of our checking account. The reference was 4576. Why not? Because that's hit on my keyboard. Let's go ahead and we'll transact that one. And of course, we have to put in the amounts up here. So let's go ahead and actually tag that. We'll just double click on it and pull that through. And now we can actually save that. So now that is basically paid off there. And one other thing that I'm going to mention there in that disbursements area, one other thing up here at the top, you can filter here by due date. Now that's regardless of the discount. So you can see that we still have, in the case of this vendor, a $65 discount available, again, if we pay by the 25th. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a hypothetical. Let's say that I actually missed that one, and it's now the 26th. So I'm going to change the date, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm paying this one, but I missed that one. So now I'm going to put in the $32.50. If this were actually, if we had done this actually as of the 26th, that would have come up automatically. So it would have actually shown that as being a missed discount. But I'm going to go ahead and we'll say that that was also paid via an EFT. And the idea here is, what I want to show you is another report back in accounts payable. And there's a report in here called lost discounts. So the idea with this is, let's just go ahead and do today through 6/15. And I'm just going to go ahead and run this report. We can see it's coming up with one record here. We'll go ahead and throw this up on this to the screen. So we can see that in the case of that one invoice, it was invoiced on the 15th. The due date was the 14th. Now, unfortunately, we didn't pay it by the 25th. We lost that discount. So we only were able to cash in on the $32.50. It would happen to be exactly half of that because that's what I got them set up as. So it's letting us know that we did take the $32.50 discount because we paid it by the 4th. But we lost a discount of $32.50 because we missed paying it by the 25th. So just a nice way of saying, oh, well, we screwed up. Let's make sure we catch that next time. So using this in conjunction with the aging report can definitely help you to stay abreast of potential discounts that are available from your vendors. So hopefully that makes sense. If there's any questions regarding discounts, I would love to hear them. But the main thing is just making sure that the system knows about those discounts so that it can remind you of them, given the possibility of that. And again, there's two ways of doing that. You can set them up as automatic discounts, essentially common discounts that you can get back here in the vendor account themselves. So setting those up as the potential discount percentages and days from of early payment ahead of when that invoice date was. And you can also set those up on the fly, as it were, when you're keying in those invoices. So we'll just take a few minutes just to see if there's any questions. And while we're waiting, I will go ahead and pull up our upcoming webinars, just as another reminder, because I know some of you don't necessarily attend every webinar, so I always like to make sure that people are aware of what's coming up around the bend. So as always, at our website at tritechretail.com, we can go into the member portal, And you can always click over here where it says sign up for webinars and click on the free webinar link here. And this will bring up all of the upcoming webinars. So here's the one that we just did. Next week on Tuesday, we'll be taking a look at inventory price changes and auto pricing routines. We've got another accounts payable webinar coming up next Thursday. So that's paying vendors with credit cards. So especially if those of you who are in attendance today, if you'd like to see some best practices for taking advantage of that, make sure you're signing up for that one. We're also going to be taking a look at some customer financing options on Tuesday, May 26th. And then we'll be wrapping up the month with a final webinar on Friday, the 29th, taking a look at some best practices with the scheduler module. So how to take advantage of the invoicing options available, keeping on top of makeups, and other little bits of tips and tricks here with that. So I'm not seeing any questions coming in, and that's about all that I had as far as AP discounts. Again, it's pretty quick and painless, obviously. It's just a matter of getting them in there. So as long as you've got those available to take advantage of, I say go ahead and do it. Why not, right? Because if it's less money that you have to pay, that's more money available to have for other expenses, paying obviously employees, improvements and enhancements on the store, whatever it might be. Less is more, right? So thanks so much, Henning. Thanks so much for attending all of these and being a great patron of TriTech. We certainly don't discount. See what I did there? We certainly don't discount you taking advantage of these. We're here to serve. So if there's any webinars or webinar topics that you would like to see us cover, definitely let me know. Shoot me an email at training@tritechretail.com, and I will make that happen for you. And if you think of a question about accounts payable discounts after the fact, and you didn't get a chance to ask it now, send me an email as well, and I will definitely get back to you with an answer as best as I can. So once again, thanks so much. I hope you're all making it a great one, and we'll see you next time. Take care.